Hey everyone, David here with your weekly Mouthful of David video. Hope this video is finding you okay, relatively healthy, safe, and everything. I just finished giving a presentation to my students, so I'm a little bit out of it, to be honest. But because of that, I'll just have a relatively short video for today, but hopefully still a good one. So anyway, before we get into the video itself, like usual, we will do updates. Starting off, if you haven't heard already, we have started Patreon. We have tiers at $1 a month, $5 a month, and $8 a month increments. So if you're able to give, that'd be super great. We have different content at different tiers. So, you do get something in return for supporting us. But if you can't, no worries at all. Nothing that we did before as a podcast or anything is behind the paywall now. So you're still, if you're not able to support, you still get episodes, weekly videos, and all that. So everything that we did, or are doing rather, for Patreon is new stuff that we haven't done in the past. So we're doing book reviews, videos of Nick angrily ranting about things, giving people input on certain podcast episode ideas. So, things like that. Are what you get for supporting us. But if you can't, again, no worries. We just appreciate y'all checking us out. Other than that, we have started our second season of the podcast. And so our first episode of the season, if you haven't heard already, is about different elections that we all find interesting. So kind of like we did with our first episode of the podcast, we just decided that that would make a good just general starting off point for each new season. So that's kind of tentatively what we're looking to do to kick off each new season. So check that one out if you haven't already. Our next episode that'll be coming out, which should hopefully be coming out in the next week or so, is about the 1953 US-backed coup in Iran that overthrew the democratically elected Mohammad Mossadegh and replaced him with the Shah, who got total power after that. So be on the lookout for that. That one's pretty short, but again, hopefully still worth looking at. Anyway, with all that said, we will get to this week's video. So, if you remember, last summer, I believe, I did a sort of long video about studying Black history. I gave a variety of topics and specifically people, time periods, and organizations to look into for Black history, for learning more about it. But, with this video, I figured I'd just make a kind of condensed, shorter one where I just give 5 book recommendations for Black history, all written by Black authors, of course, to check out. So the first book to recommend is Black Reconstruction in America by W.E.B. Du Bois. And so this book is about, I think, a really overlooked part of U.S. history, and that's Reconstruction. And, it's this really interesting time period where slavery has been abolished, and theoretically, Black folks are free now. But, of course, it's way more complicated than that. There's all these questions about essentially what happens next, and a bunch of different branching questions off of that sort of central question. And what Du Bois does in this book is center Black folks, right? Both newly freed people in the South, as well as Black folks in the North. And he talks about the role that they took as citizens, as workers, etc., in the period of Reconstruction. So it's a really good read. W.E.B. Du Bois is a great scholar, so that's highly recommended. My next book is Race Reform and Rebellion by Manning Marable. The Second Reconstruction and Beyond in Black America, 1945 to 2006. And it's very interesting that, as you can tell by the subtitle, Marable frames the civil rights movement, or the freedom movement, as it's also known, of the 60s and 70s, as a sort of sequel to Reconstruction, right? Because it's trying to reconstruct society in a more equal, egalitarian way. And what's really great about the book is Marable doesn't just look at Black folks as a monolith. He doesn't, just give you the rundown of the normal names during the civil rights movement. He really looks at different groups within the Black community and the different roles that they played. So, he's looking at the church, he's looking at labor, he's looking at more affluent middle class Black folks versus more working class and poor Black folks, and the roles that they're playing. And so it's a really interesting and really insightful history of that era. And despite the subtitle, by the way, saying from 1945 to 2006, it is mostly focused on the lead up to the actual happenings of and the aftermath of the civil rights / freedom movement, as well as, the Black Power movement and the relationship between those two. So really fantastic book, worth checking out, which, I guess that's a little redundant to say since all these are book recommendations, but hey, what can you do when a book is that good, right? Next is No Name in the Street by James Baldwin. And James Baldwin is actually personally my favorite writer of all time. He was a Black man, a gay Black man, or bisexual Black man, depending on who you ask, who was a noted writer and something of an activist during the civil rights era, although during parts of it, he was in Paris. He has a really interesting life story, but what I love about him personally is his prose is fantastic. It's beautiful, it's wise, it's insightful. And so this book is basically his commentary written in, I believe, the 70s? Yeah, written in 1972. His contemporary commentary on the civil rights / freedom movement, as well as the Black Power movement and other issues of the day, even beyond just quote unquote Black issues. He has a wide scope and, again, really fantastic insights that are just beautifully put. And next, book number 4, Where Do We Go From Here? From the man himself, Martin Luther King Jr. It's his last book that he wrote before he was assassinated in 1968. And it's basically just him laying out his ideology and, just his opinions on contemporary, for him, society. And it's a beautiful, well-written book, like the Baldwin book, but it really just gives you a sense of MLK's beliefs because, every MLK day without fail, everyone under the sun says, oh, well, if MLK was alive today, he'd agree with me on this or that. But most people don't even try to actually understand what MLK thought. So, reading this book isn't just a book that'll get you thinking because MLK is a thoughtful guy with beliefs worth chewing on, but also, it really lets you put his beliefs into the forefront, right? Like, it really shows you what he thought. So, finally, last book recommendation is The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander. You've probably heard of it, but it's just fantastic. There's a reason it's on every reading list. And even if you do care and already kind of know about, the prison system and issues with it, and you think to yourself, do I need to read that book if I already kind of know this stuff? Trust me, read the book. It puts everything into just perfect context. It talks about the history leading up to it, and it presents the prison system in a sort of big picture way, beyond just being about the prison system, and that's what's so great. Anyways, thanks for listening, everyone. Have a good week, and catch you next time.